You know, we use money every single day, but have you ever stopped and really thought about what it is? Where does it even come from? Well, today we're going to dive into a classic work by Murray Rothbard that asks a really provocative question. What has government done to our money? All right, let's just jump right in by challenging something most of us probably take for granted. We tend to think money, well, it comes from the government, right? The Treasury, the Fed, you know the drill. But what if that's not how it all started? What if the real story of money doesn't begin with a decree, but just with regular folks like you and me trying to trade stuff with each other? And this quote right here, it perfectly sets the stage. It paints the history of money as this epic tug of war. On one side, you have the market, people trying to find a good, reliable form of money on their own. And on the other side, you've got the government, which, according to Rothbard, always wants to be in control. So to really get what's at stake here, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. Okay, Section 1, how money is born. Before we can even get to what government did to money, we first have to understand how money could, well, just happen, how it could pop up all on its own without any central planner. So it all starts with a problem that's actually pretty easy to imagine. Let's say you're a chicken farmer. You've got eggs, and you want a new pair of shoes. But the shoemaker, he hates eggs. You're stuck. That's what economists call the lack of coincidence of wants. And it gets worse. What if you're a farmer with a plow and you just want a loaf of bread? You can't just saw off a piece of your plow, right? That's the indivisibility problem. Barter is just clumsy. So what's the solution? Well, according to this theory, a brilliant idea emerged organically. Indirect exchange. People started accepting something popular in trade, not because they needed that thing, but because they knew they could easily trade it away later for something they did need. And this is the crucial step. You see how it works? You go from that clunky direct trading to using a handy in-between good. And here's the magic part. The more people start accepting that good, the more useful it becomes for everyone else. It's this awesome feedback loop. And over time, one or two commodities just win. They win the market's popularity contest. They're the ones that are easy to carry, easy to divide, and last a long time. And just like that, they've transformed. They're not just goods anymore. They are money. And this brings us to the historical winners of that contest. After a long time, gold and silver basically came out on top. And the key takeaway here is that they weren't chosen by some king or a government committee. Nope. They were chosen by millions of ordinary people, day after day, trade after trade, simply because they were the best tools for the job. Durable, divisible, desirable, they just worked. All right, Section 2, money on the market. So the market has picked a winner, let's say it's gold. Now what? How does this market-born money actually work? Let's dig in. Now this next point is really important to grasp. According to Rothbard, money isn't some weird, abstract thing created by a government. It's just a commodity. Think of it like wheat or oil or cotton. The only thing that makes it different is its main purpose, to make it easier for us to exchange all the other commodities. It sounds simple, but trust me, the implications of this idea are massive. And this leads to a pretty mind-bending idea about money. Think about it this way. If we magically doubled the number of apples in the world, society would be better off, right? We'd have more to eat. But what if we magically doubled the amount of money? Are we all suddenly twice as rich? The argument here is a hard no. All that happens is the value of each individual dollar gets cut in half. It just dilutes the purchasing power, meaning that sooner or later, prices for everything else will just double. So if just printing more money doesn't actually make a society wealthier, that leads to a huge question, right? What is the right amount of money for an economy to have? And the answer from this perspective is totally counterintuitive. Are you ready for this? The answer is any amount will do. It doesn't actually matter. If there's a small supply of money, each dollar or each gold coin will just be worth a lot, and prices will be super low. If there's a huge supply, each one will be worth very little, and prices will be high. The market, in this view, simply adjusts its prices to match whatever amount of money is out there. Okay, Section 3, the government's hidden tax. So now we get to the real heart of the matter. If the market can figure out money all by itself, what happens when the government steps in? Well, according to the book, this is where things get tricky. Government intervention isn't just about regulation. It's a kind of hidden tax. And to understand this, we need to redefine a word we hear all the time, inflation. See, most of us think inflation is rising prices, But according to Rothbard, that's not quite right. Rising prices are just the symptom, like a fever. The actual disease, the cause, is the increase in the supply of money itself, creating new money that isn't backed by a real asset like gold or silver. And the book doesn't pull any punches here. It describes this government-led creation of new money as basically a form of legal counterfeiting. Think about it. It's a way for the government to get spending power without having to send anyone a tax bill. And that, as the quote says, is what makes it so painless and all the more dangerous. And the consequences of this go way beyond just higher prices at the grocery store. It acts as this stealthy transfer of wealth. The first people to get the new money, government contractors, big banks, get to spend it before prices rise. But by the time it trickles down to everyone else, prices are already up. So it hurts savers, people on fixed incomes, anyone who holds cash. It also totally messes up business calculations, creating fake profits and bad investments. This, the argument goes, is what leads to the boom and bust business cycle we see all the time. Which brings us to our final section, the age of central banks. This is how, in the modern world, this government control over money became formalized, systematic, and, well, institutionalized. You can really see the progression over at the last century or so. There was a time, during the classical gold standard, when a dollar was literally just a name for a certain weight of gold. Then we moved to this kinda-sorta gold standard called Bretton Woods after World War II. And then, in 1971, that last link was cut. Now, we live in a world of what's called fiat currencies, money that's backed by, well, nothing but the government's promise. So what's the role of a central bank in all this? In Rothbard's analysis, it's the engine room of inflation. By getting a monopoly on printing money, it removes all the natural checks and balances the market would have. It allows all banks to kind of inflate together, knowing they have a safety net. And most importantly, it makes it super easy for the government to finance its own spending by just creating more money. So what was the final nail in the coffin for market money? Well, according to this view, it was literally making it illegal for private citizens to own gold. By cutting that final link, by making it impossible for you to walk into a bank and demand gold for your paper dollars, the government removed the last real check on its power to inflate. The public was essentially locked into the government system. And this whole story leaves us with a really deep question, one that the book poses at the end. When it comes to money and maybe everything else, what creates real, lasting order? Is it a central plan designed and enforced from the top down? Or does it bubble up from the bottom, emerging from the free choices of millions of people all coordinating with each other? It's a question that really gets to the heart of how we think society works best.